Hi, my name is Colijia Feliz, and this is my autoethnography as a biracial and multicultural person as I'm learning my social identity and as I analyze it, have had to analyze it for my social work program at Fresno State. I'm biracial. I am half black, half Mexican. My mother is black from Arkansas, from the South, and I like to call her a country bumpkin because she still has her southern accent and her little southern ways. And my dad is from Mexico, from Sinaloa, and he came here to the U.S. as an illegal immigrant. He worked in the fields. When my parents met, that they couldn't even communicate because my mom didn't speak Spanish and my dad didn't speak English. So they had to learn each other's language in order to communicate, which I think is pretty cool. That speaks to the love they had for each other. My mom learned Spanish a lot faster than my dad learned English, so he stopped trying as hard to learn. So when my sister and I were born, English and Spanish were both our first language, but we primarily spoke Spanish because that was what my dad primarily spoke. But you wouldn't know that now because we don't speak it fluently anymore because my parents divorced when I was fairly young. I want to say I was maybe 7 or 8 years old when they divorced, and my dad had some, issues with substance abuse and run-ins with the law, and he eventually was deported back to Mexico. So then my mom raised us as a single mother for the rest of our lives. I haven't seen my father since I was maybe 8 or 9 years old. He still lives in Mexico. He hasn't been back to the U.S. So, with living that life and not having to speak Spanish all the time, we lost a lot of it. So I understand a lot of Spanish, but I don't speak it quite as well. I can, do like minimal conversation, but I don't know everything like I used to. So after my parents divorced, we initially lived on the bad side of town, what's considered the bad part of Visalia, on the north side. And once my parents divorced, my mom moved us to a better side of town and to a new school, better area. And that's where we encountered our first experiences with racism. Prior to that, on the north side, I would say it was primarily Mexican and black people. And, we were in our comfort zone. We didn't have any issues. No one ever brought up our race or our ethnicity to us. So, it had never come up before. We moved to our new school and our new apartment when I was maybe first or second grade, and that's where we first met with racism. In our apartment complex, there was a family at the end of our complex who a single dad. He was white with 3 children. He had a daughter that was my age and 2 younger sons, and they would call us nigger and other racist terms. And at first we didn't really know. I mean, we knew it wasn't anything good, but we didn't really understand what it was. And then we told my mom, and then she had to break it down to us, and she told us, that basically it's a racist term, that we were black and people just don't like black people. They like to be racist against black people, and that was going to be a barrier for us, especially, and also being Mexican, but, more for being black, and that's something that we're going to have to deal with for the rest of our lives. That's going to be something that is always going to probably be an issue. And, I just think it's ironic that we moved from the bad part of town where supposedly everybody's less than, or like, poor people, to the nicer where everyone's supposed to be more civilized and, like better. And that's where we met, our first incidents with racism. That's where I learned I was black from somebody who was racist, from somebody who was white. You know, and I talked with my mom about that, and she just felt like there was no need prior to that for her to discuss our race. We were so young, and she said it had never come up, and there was just no need to bring it up or to give us a lesson because, you know, no one had ever thought to call us that or to make it an issue prior. So, you know, after that, she sat us down. She made us watch movies that had to do with slavery. She taught us about our history and about racism and everything that, you know, we needed to know. So I think my second encounter with different person with racism was when I was in the 5th grade, and a white boy called me a nigger, and he called my mom a black bitch. And I think I was more upset that he was talking about my mom than with me, but at that moment I was more prepared for the racism. I was more prepared and knowledgeable and aware, and I reacted with violence. I think I tried to choke him or something. I remember getting in trouble and telling them, you know what, my mom said if anyone calls me that, I have the right to defend myself, and I did. And I think after that, I don't think we had too many more issues until we got to like junior high and high school, my sister and I, where we started to experience a different type of racism. There we experienced inner racism. At the time I didn't know what it was, and I didn't understand. Now, after learning through social work program and the race and oppression classes, like, it's inner racism, because through our youth we were always those black girls, or, you know, looked down upon because we were black. Now we weren't black enough for the black kids, for the black girls specifically. We really didn't have any issues with boys who were black, but from black girls who were maybe darker than us, or initially we thought were our friends, and they would turn on us and want to fight us, and we didn't understand why all of a sudden people who were our friends hated us or would want to fight us. And it was, you know, because we were lighter skinned and had like the quote unquote good hair, and we thought we were all that. And people would tell us, you know, it's because they're jealous of you. And, you know, we never really want to accept that that argument or that reason, because telling someone they're jealous of you is almost as if like you feel like you have an advantage over them, or you have something better than they do, or you are better than they are. And we never thought we were. We never thought we had more than them, you know, because we were poor, living on a single parent income, and we didn't have much. So we just looked at ourselves as just black kids too, you know, and we didn't understand why they didn't like us or why they hated us. And, you know, learning in class and watching the documentary Dark Girls really puts that into perspective. And, you know, that we were experiencing inner racism that's been passed down from slavery, you know. And back in slavery, the dark-skinned black people were separated from the light-skins who worked in the house with the masters and with their owners. So it really made me have like a sour taste in my mouth, a tainted view of the valley, and I wanted to leave as soon as I could. And I hated being in the Central Valley, and I wanted to get out. And, you know, it kind of made me worry when I went to college, because I was concerned that I was going to experience the same things and the same issues, and I had none of that. And I loved it. I was embraced by everybody, by every culture. And, you know, I think there's something to be said for the higher level of education. People get to learn a little bit more about race and multiculturalism and diversity. And I just think it's sad. Those type of classes should be taught in high school, and kids should learn about multiculturalism, about other races, other cultures, other ethnicities, and learn to appreciate them rather than